Hey, don't forget to check out the Pacific War podcast week by week in association with Kings and Generals. The following documentary is based off of an interview with Amy Rupertus Peacock, the granddaughter of General William Henry Rupertus and the author of the new book, Old Breed General: How Marine Corps General William H. Rupertus Broke the Back of the Japanese in World War II from Guadalcanal to Peleliu, co-written with Don Brown. So please go check it out at Stackpole Books and all other major booksellers, and soon to be released as an Audible book at Audible. Hey, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so I can feed my two feathery co-hosts.
An overall map of the sweep of, again, the island hopping campaign, because after New Britain, the next step was Peleliu. And Peleliu, of course, was a controversial strategic decision. There was a lot of, back and forth on whether to go there or not. General MacArthur, by this time, the 1st Marine Division has now been given back to Nimitz, okay? Yes. So MacArthur has lost control of it. However, MacArthur, sort of left the Philippines for him in disgrace, but he promised, "I shall return."
I landed on your soil. I said to the people of the Philippines whence I came, I shall return. Tonight, I repeat those words. I shall return.
Hoping to do that. If you look at where Peleliu is located, near Mindanao, it's several hundred miles off the southeastern Philippine coast. So MacArthur initially felt that securing Peleliu would give him a better chance of going into the Philippines, because the Japanese were heavily entrenched there. The U.S. Navy, Admirals King, Admirals Nimitz, were pushing more toward an argument of, hitting Japan directly, as I recall. MacArthur wanted, he wanted to have it, he wanted to have it his way, and Roosevelt initially, he took the 1st Marine Division back from MacArthur, but let him, so they did go into Peleliu. And the thing about Peleliu, it turned out to be one of the bloodiest, battles. And what had happened, a lot of people don't realize, is the Japanese essentially changed their battle tactics. We saw, again, if you go back, and I'm sure a number of your viewers and listeners, saw the docudrama of the Pacific, and I saw it, and partly I wanted to see it because we were working on this book at the time. I wanted to see how it was portrayed there. But, the General Vandergris, 1st Marine Division, weighed onto the shores of Guadalcanal, and the Japanese strategy has been kind of let them come in, and then we attack, okay? So you draw them in and attack. At Peleliu, they totally reverse that.
Yeah, Peleliu is a fascinating, and as I was doing this research, I found the plan for the Japanese plan for building and staffing the whole underground tunnels. I found it was from the Army, U.S. Army's Demobilization Bureau, and they had translated these documents. And unfortunately, because word count, I couldn't put it in the whole book. We couldn't put it in the book, but it talks about the whole engineering plan. For basically killing as many American Marines and our American military as possible. And between the connected tunnels and where they could hide out, I mean, we had been bombing them since March. Some people say that we only were bombing them bombing Peleliu for 3 days, but we had been bombing them since March. So you think we would have made some progress. And so I think there was a lot of belief that the naval bombing had.
Well, they thought that they had taken out most of the Japanese.
Yeah.
They had not even touched them, basically.
And, in our intelligence, there was an intelligence failure for whatever reason. And I think it might be argued, and maybe you'll agree with this or not, Craig, but Peleliu was the beginning, basically, of a shift in the Japanese warfighting strategy on these islands. I mean, you see it replicated at Iwo Jima.
Okinawa was a big one after that.
Exactly. So this was the beginning of a new strategy we had not seen. In this photograph, General Rupertus is standing here. There are 4 crosses, and he is standing just above the 3rd cross to the right, and just to the right of the screen, to his left, is Chesty Puller, who of course was involved in the initial. Chesty was on the ground on D-Day at Peleliu, and that was really, really something. Some other photographs here, and Amy, you feel free to jump in, taken on Peleliu.
So I think the best. I'm sure your listeners, or many of them, have read With the Old Breed by Eugene Pledge. That is a great book on the boots on the ground and the horror they experienced throughout the Pacific, particularly Peleliu. The fact that they prevailed is just awe-inspiring, despite everything they went through. But here's a picture of our grandfather, checking in on the Marines. So this is Peleliu Island. There's a Jeep, and there are a bunch of wounded Marines on it. Our grandfather's talking to them and on the beach and seeing how they're doing. You'll see in some pictures that he had injured himself. He was getting better here, but he had been getting back in the training for Pavuvu. He had been getting into a boat, and he grabbed a handle. Transport boat. He'd been going between islands, and he grabbed a handle, and the canvas handle had disintegrated and split, and he fell down on some coral, and he hurt his ankle. And so that's why it's wrapped with a picture of Bob Hope, and that's why he has a cane here. It's a pretty powerful picture.
And he remained in command, I think, until November. This was a joint operation with the Army, as you know, Craig, and the Army came in and began to relieve the Marines after several weeks.
Hey, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so I can feed my two feathery co-hosts.